Hey, music fans, Darren from Vinyl Corner. You get a bonus again. You get two bonuses this week. It's kind of cool. I'm on standby and did not get an assignment, so I got a chance to kind of chill and do some honeydews and usual things that you might have to do when you're staying at home. Couldn't go nowhere because you always got to be available in case you get called in. So, yeah. Anyway, today we're going to talk about a few things about bands that act like records didn't exist. There are a few bands that when you look at their greatest hits compilations, you can't find songs from these records anywhere. It's almost like they tried to erase them. But they were great records, and one of them for sure is just like, what the heck? So we're going to start off with that record. So we're going to start off with Bad Company. Now, Bad Company had 4 records with a singer named Brian Howe. Now, Brian Howe came over from the Ted Nugent band. He did some singing there, a few solo things. But a Brit guy. And he was more of that, he wasn't a bluesy singer. He was more of the what I would call an arena screamer type singer, and they had the 4 records with him. They had Fame and Fortune, which we were going to talk about another band that they opened up for on that tour that I actually got to see. They had Dangerous Minds, Dangerous Age, Holy Water, and then they had another one called Here Comes Trouble. Now, 3 of those 4 went gold and platinum. They had success here in the U.S. And they had 2 gold singles out of all of that. Huge top 20 hits, a couple of top 10s. The albums were top 20. They kind of hit right there in that sweet spot where their sound was merging with that arena type hard rock. MTV was kind of thriving there in the mid to late 80s and into the early 90s prior to grunge. Now, Here Comes Trouble was released right after grunge, and then they released a live record that was good, but it didn't do them any favors with that lineup. And so every time you look at a Bad Company greatest hits package, or you even watch their Behind the Music or any documentary that you find about them, they don't even talk about this era. This era doesn't exist. If it wasn't Paul Rodgers singing, they don't discuss it. They didn't even discuss the poor 2 records that didn't go anywhere with this other guy after Brian Howe. They did 2 more records that didn't do anything. With another lead singer, and then finally in 2000 or so they all go back together again, of course without Boz Burrell, because he had passed on earlier, and they started doing shows and stuff and were only playing the traditional Bad Company. Even greatest hits, or even when they went to Rock Hall of Fame, it was only those 4 Bad Company. And they kind of completely trashed and threw away these really, really great records. Dangerous Age and Holy Water really is the epitome of that era. So if you have to get an album through that era, get the Holy Water album. But yeah, for the most part, highly successful on the charts. Great sales. Like I said, most all went gold or platinum. And very popular on mainstream radio. They had, 8 top 10 songs, and all 4 of those albums were top 10 on the mainstream rock. But that version of Bad Company doesn't exist when you talk to the members of Bad Company now. Kind of sad. Emerson, Lake and Powell. This is a great record. I really enjoyed this. Cozy Powell had left Whitesnake after the Slide It In album. And, of course, Carl Palmer was with Asia. So when these guys got together, they needed the drummer. And, hey, Powell's name ends in a P, so it's still ELP. But this was a really great record. Touch and Go, Lay Down Your Guns, Love Blind. Um, what is one of my favorite? Step Aside is really pretty good. Touch and Go was the big song from this. It was top 10 on mainstream charts. This album was top 10 mainstream charts as well. It's a strong album, but again, when you look at their greatest hits packages, nothing from here exists. It's like this record came out, went gold in the US and in Canada. It was a gold record. Didn't do great in Europe. Of course, they're used to the traditional ones, and sometimes the British mainstream, they get pretty picky. If it's not the normal group, then they don't want to hear it. But this is a great record. You really, really ought to try to listen to it. It has a very similar sound to ELP traditional. It does go with a little bit of the mainstream with the progressive. Keith Emerson has just gone wild on here. So if you really, really love his complex writing, you'll really enjoy some of this. Greg Lake is on target with his singing. It's a great record. But when you look at any of the packages, I got a nice 4 CD greatest hits big box package, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, this is great. And then you look at it, and there is nothing from this record. Not a thing. They bypass this record and go straight to the couple that they recorded in the 90s as Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. Great record. Missed out. This next one actually has one song you'll catch on greatest hits packages, but the whole record is actually really good. This is Notorious from Loverboy. This was released in 87, 88? 87. It was released right after Lovin' Every Minute of it, and Loverboy had a nice trend of multi-platinum, 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 multi-platinum. And then this came out. Kind of went to about 40 on the American charts. Did go gold here and in Canada. Had that really, I found to be a very intriguing and cool rock track, Notorious, which actually did go top 10 in the mainstream rock. The downfall is the other material is good, but it's not, doesn't really sound like a Loverboy album because the sound of it, this is a different topic. The production and the sound of it is the best Loverboy I've ever heard. The best sounding Loverboy album. And that's probably why I like it so much. It's because it has more. It was recorded digitally. The others were recorded with the old tape system. So this one had an ability to kind of do some different things with it. And you can tell that they were kind of experimenting with some sounds. The songs were still there, but they sounded a bit different. I mean, you can tell from Notorious, and that became a big MTV hit, and that was really, really pretty good. A great hit, and it's what drove the sales of this album. But there really wasn't any other song that went into the radio that had any significant airplay. This would be the second to the last album with their bass player, Scott. What is their bass player's name? Scott Smith. Because they had another album in the 90s after they released this greatest hits package in like 97, 98, and everyone kind of, oh, hey, Loverboy. And they kind of got on. They did a tour. I saw them in Wichita. But this is a great record, and it probably deserves a second listen. If you're a Loverboy fan, I know there's mixed feelings on this record. Many love it, many kind of like, oh man, they kind of changed their sound. But the sound is still Loverboy. It's just the way it was recorded has more of a better, my degree's not in English, so my vocabulary is pretty limited. It just had a better sound. And it's a good record. So give this one a shot. So those three are my ones today for, why they don't get. I'm disenchanted with the Bad Company because they completely erased that from their history. They went in the Hall of Fame this year, and I'm like, well, why didn't you just let Brian Howe go in with you? What was the problem? Because he kind of carried the band through that era, and it still had Mick Ralph, still had Simon Kirke. Boz recorded a bit on the first two, but then he disappeared and of course then passed away. But yeah, I saw them. They actually opened for ELP, the Emerson, Lake and Powell. I saw them in Jackson when I was in college. The only other thing that I kind of think is a travesty when it comes to band members that have been is Bob Welsh. How Fleetwood Mac, I mean, he carried him for 4 albums that did well in America. It was that old Peter Green sound still. But then when they got in the Hall of Fame, it was like that era didn't exist either. Kind of how the world goes sometimes. Anyway, guys, have a great day and stay tuned. We'll have some fun next time on Vinyl Corner.